Hello, once again, dear listeners. Welcome to another episode of Reckless A Talk, our twice monthly TTRPG interview show, where we talk to some of our favorite writers, performers, and creators in the space. Today's episode is a real treat as I, DM Nathan, got to chat with Paladin, aka HTTPaladin, on the socials, who is a TTRPG content director, writer, producer, and general excellent creator of content. They are most known as the co-director for Sina Una, an extremely robust and colorful crowdfunded D&D compatible campaign setting, which is based on Filipino mythology and history. The Sina Una team, which includes Paladin's co-director, Lucia aka Seer Sword, just recently completed a new Kickstarter for an adventure book in the setting. Paladin and I got to cover a lot in this chat, ranging from their lifelong love of D&D to the great lengths that they went down to track down Filipino cultural information, to colonialism, to being sort of featured on Critical Role, to the mortifying ordeal of being known. It is a really lovely and meaningful conversation, I think, and a very human one with a very thoughtful creator. I hope you enjoy, and I really hope that you check out the Sina Una projects and Paladin in general. Links to all their stuff are available in the show notes, as are a few light content warnings. That's all from me. Hope you enjoy the episode, and see you next Tuesday for Reckless Attack. There's no good way to start it, I think, as I've really learned over the course of doing these episodes. But hi, Paladin, how are you today?
Yeah, I've tried to have like really cool openings for things I've done in the past, and like there's never, you just gotta start doing it. There's no smooth way to transition into it. It's always awkward.
Yeah, I do like a preamble recorded thing beforehand, which does the kind of like, and this person does this and that, and they're really cool, and it was a great interview, tune in. But like the actual start of a conversation is always just like, we have to pretend we haven't already been talking. And
Yeah, it's the cold slip into a cold pool of water.
yes. Well, let us begin the process of warming up
Yeah,
this conversational pool. Could you please introduce yourself to the people at home who may or may not know who you are?
yeah, sure thing. Hi everybody who's listening in. My name is Paladin. Yeah, that's my actual name, and I'm in the middle of a legal process to change it legally because life is weird like that, I guess. My pronouns are they them. Oh, right. What people know me for. Uh, you might know me from Twitter as being this kind of sad person talking about Filipino stuff, or someone who works in the TTRPG industry, which is sometimes also depressing. Um, I'm most
Sometimes.
known, yeah, sometimes, yeah. I'm best known for my role as co-director for the Islands of Sina Una, more recently Tales from Sina Una, its adventure sequel,
Yes.
uh, and some miscellaneous projects here and there working for different companies. I get around. I get around.
Yes. So I have known about you and known about kind of your projects for a little while, because I think the first Sina Una book was
Was
am I remembering?
2019.
Was okay 2019, and have been vaguely aware of it, and as I've kind of entered even more into the tabletop role-playing game space, have really enjoyed your presence and enjoyed your work a whole lot, and I'm really excited to get into the Tales book once it is out for consumption.
Mhm.
But I'm really excited to talk to you and learn just a little bit more about how you got into the hobby and kind of what drives you to do the cool stuff that you do.
Sure.
So I will start with kind of the all important, albeit lightly cliche question of, where did you first get exposed to tabletop role playing games? How did you get going, and what kind of grabbed you?
I got introduced to D&D and TTRPGs in general from my father when I was 3.
Really?
Yeah, we were in a long car ride and I was getting antsy, and he wanted me to chill out because like, how are you going to tame a 3-year-old, you know?
Yep.
And he just started talking to me about his time as playing D&D
Really?
because he's been playing since he was 7.
So were this just like a regaling of like, here's cool stuff that happened to me? Was he telling you about like the game itself, or was it
Yeah.
narrative focused?
No, he was telling me about cool stuff that he did in his games. He was playing D&D primarily during like the 80s, when he was in his early 20s and drinking a lot, Um, so like it just, oh yeah, you played a left-handed bard who played a 7-string guitar. Yeah, cool. That's real impressive there, dude. But as a 3-year-old, it's like, this is amazing. I don't get these
Yeah, that is
references. These aren't
cool.
references at all. This is just amazing. This is cool. My dad is cool because he plays nerd stuff. But I got interested when I was 3, grew up reading different TTRPG books on the side, and then when I was 10, I finally got to start playing D&D via the 3.5 edition rule set.
When I hear from a lot of people, I hear a lot of people who are stuck in the like, yeah, I had access to books kind of limbo, but no one to play with, especially kind of right around that
Yeah.
area. So who was 10-year-old Paladin playing D&D with?
One of my father's coworkers had a kid in high school who got him and his friends into D&D. And, they didn't want to run a game. They had no idea how to run a game. They knew that their father's neat slash nerdy coworker played. And when my father went over there to play with them, he was like, "Hey, you want to play D&D?" And like I've been spoon fed like 7 years worth of D&D as a tease. Like, yeah, I'm ready to play some D&D.
Oh, I'm ready.
Yeah.
How did 10-year-old you handle playing with high schoolers?
So I think the thing to realize is that these are high schoolers. They're not the most teenagers in general are sometimes very, very scary and sometimes very, very capable.
Yes.
That said, we were stuck in a 10 by 10 room for 3 hours. It wasn't locked. We were stuck in a 10 by 10 unlocked room for 3 hours up until I asked, "Hey, can I open the door?" It's not locked. How long has it not been locked? Since the beginning. Oh.
Well, lessons learned as you adventure, right? Is something you just wiggle the door handle, maybe sometimes. Give it a
Yeah.
shot.
Yeah. And my father just sat there with a lot of patience, just watching like 7+ people just kind of flail around in a room that he didn't lock.
So was your dad the DM of the group?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Do you remember what your character was? Like what your conception of, oh, this is what a D&D character is. It's this thing.
Oh, yeah. I had just watched Lord of the Rings with my dad. I was
Yep.
playing a human ranger dual wielding stuff.
I mean, yep. I mean,
Yeah.
I couldn't even guess what percentage of D&D characters, especially pre 5e, are just like, well, I saw Lord of the Rings and you told me that this is Lord of the Rings, and so I just did a Lord of the Rings thing.
Oh, an inordinate amount. Yeah, my first character was me doing the thing where like people like make on YouTube of, "Hey, can we make Aang in D&D?" Mine was,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make Aragorn in D&D. That's gonna be cool. It's gonna be really cool. It's gonna be sick. It's gonna be sick. It's gonna be sick.
I mean,
Uh,
and often it is sick. So fair.
yeah.
So what's the trajectory from 10-year-old Aragorn not checking doors and seeing if they're locked to kind of the paladin that is today? Like where did you kind of start getting more, not even just professionally or publicly quote unquote serious about tabletop role playing games, but was there a point where you like where it truly got its hooks into you and you're like, ah, this is what I want to do? Or has it kind of always been like that?
Oh no, I spent the next 16 years being a complete total loser. With like no direction at all in my life, working dead end jobs that will get me nowhere for a career. I only started having an actual quote unquote career when I started working on the first Sina Una book.
Really? So
Yeah.
had you been playing a lot of D&D in those 16 years or in the
I
lead up to Sina Una?
I've
Or
been playing or thinking about D&D every day since I was 3.
so yes, so for sure yes, for sure
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Uh, I either played it or read about it or was thinking about it or writing about it or theory crafting about it. I remember in math class, my wonderful math teacher, Ed, told me, "Hey man, you gotta put these things away. You gotta put these printouts away, man. You gotta focus on your career, okay? Like this is a nice hobby, but like you gotta focus on the stuff that will actually like,
Sure.
help you get an income." Like bless him. But also, like, I don't know, man, this is the only thing I'm really qualified to do.
and here you are. So like it's, it turned around nicely, hopefully.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
so I know that you got involved. Your the way you got involved with Sina Una, especially kind of on your path to being co-director of the project, was not like a straight line necessarily. So how did you kind of get connected to that project, and what was so interesting about it to you, and kind of how did you go from where you were to being obviously one of the big creative leads of it?
So I met Sear Sword on Twitter, where I applied to redo her logo just to vectorize it, and I got denied. It's I really tell people this. Like my first time trying to work with Sear Sword ended up in me just not working for Sear Sword just because like my cost was too high for her budget. But later on, she hit me up asking if I could do numbers, like customized numbers for dice.
Oh, cool.
I did that, and we just kept on talking here and there. Uh, we started working on character sheets that never saw the light of day. And while we were working on that, she asked, "Hey, I'm working on this project that has Filipino people in it. I know you mentioned that you were Filipino people. Would you be interested?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. I could use the money."
Hmm.
And I wanted to get into book layouts.
Oh, got it. Cool. Because
Yeah,
did you start? You started as a graphic designer or like graphic artist for the
yeah. I
project?
was I was purely just the logo designer and the layout artist to begin with. And like I had only self-taught myself graphic design starting in the fall of the previous year.
Wow, really? That's
Yeah.
cool. What was interesting about that, like about graphic design? Or was it something you were just interested in? Was it something that you're like, this is you gross, we live in capitalism. And this is a skill that I can do more projects or more things with. Or what was so interesting about
Uh
that to you?
you recall how I said that I spent like the interim 16 years being a loser?
Hmm.
In October 2018, my father had a severe heart attack.
Oh, so sorry.
Like 98% blockage.
Wow.
And the realization I had looking at him in the hospital was if he dies right now, he'll have nothing to be proud of me for. And I'm gonna do something with my life. And like I already had all the programs. I already had some inkling of it. I figured, well, graphic design is pretty needed. I guess I'll teach myself some graphic design, and hopefully this will take me somewhere and make something of my life.
Hmm.
Just that, existential panic of losing your parents.
Yeah.
He's okay now, but it's just
Good.
that panic was severe enough to make me learn a new skill set.
That makes a whole bunch of sense.
Yeah.
Before I ask a little bit more about kind of like your the tendrils of Sina Una kind of bringing you in and bringing you up. Can you? We'll talk about this in the preamble, and there'll be links in all of the descriptions and all that stuff. But hey, what's Sina Una?
Yeah,
what's
sure.
the project? What's the place?
So the Islands of Sina Una is a 5e campaign setting for D&D based on pre-colonial Filipino culture and mythology.
Mhm.
Specifically, we wound up focusing on the porcelain era of Filipino history because that is a point just before the Spanish arrived where we had guns.
Is all you knew kind of going in that like, hey, we are working on a project with other Filipino people and we're reaching out and trying to bring people together? Is that kind of all the pitch that there was for you at that point? And it's a
Yes,
gig?
yes, that was it. I literally just needed some money.
Yeah.
At the time, this is a weird thing, but a lot of newer generation Filipino people, a lot of younger generation Filipino people, especially out here in the West, try and divorce themselves from feeling truly Filipino because they just don't
Hmm.
know how to.
Hmm.
It's the imposter syndrome of like you make one single art piece and you don't call yourself an artist.
Yeah.
But like you did the thing. You are the thing. You should call yourself that. And you're like, well, no, I can't. I really can't. That kind of hesitation. That's how a lot of diaspora Filipino people feel. And I was no different because all I had to fit my culture was like, oh, well, there's halo halo, which I hate. Some food I like, but also that's not enough to really feel like I'm part of a culture, you know, despite me being of that heritage. So like all I knew about it was, hey, I need some money. This is getting into doing book layout, which I know is needed in this industry, and I'll make a quick buck. And yeah, it kind of took over my life.
And here you are 3 years and change, or
Yeah,
4 years
yeah,
change later or whatever, talking
yeah,
about the book and other
yeah.
books that have
Three
come.
years and 4 months.
Yeah. Was this the first tabletop role-playing game D&D capital P project that you had been a part of at this point, other than it sounds like maybe some small design kind of things kicking around?
Yes.
As someone who had been spending so much of their time and life and math classes talking and thinking about D&D and tabletop, what did that mean to you to be able to have something that in any sort of way to connect with that hobby professionally?
It more along the lines it ran along the thought processes of, oh, this checks out, and also, oh, what a relief.
Mhm.
Because like if I didn't do this as a career, I'd still be doing so much about it or doing so much for my
Yeah.
games. It's just, oh my god, I can get money for doing this. Oh, thank God.
Cool. Yeah, hell yeah. This is
Yeah,
much better than doing it for no money.
yeah. So it became a relief. It became a good thing for me where I could just like start working on this kind of stuff, just immediately full time because I had nothing else going on in my life.
Mhm. So you come in as graphic designer. It is a big book. There are classes, there are subclasses, there are ancestries. It's a setting book. There's like hooks. Everything you could basically have in a setting book. It is there and it is robust. So, at what point in kind of the development of the big kind of spectacle it became, did you step into that even more kind of creative control role?
I remember I got bumped up to co-director immediately after we announced the project. And we announced the project in June, a couple days after my birthday. Uh, with oh god, just the worst graphic. I'm seeing it in my mind. It's awful. It's genuinely awful to look at. It's uh,
Always the worst looking back at old work and being like,
oh yeah,
it was
because
the best I could do then, but yowza.
it doesn't resemble anything that what we did for the actual book itself. Um, but it was really after we released the graphic because in the months since I joined the project, I was just doing a lot for it. Immediately doing a lot for it. And so because of doing all these responsibilities just automatically, which is I guess the antithesis of quiet quitting, Bill me, I suppose. She bumped me up to co-director.
That's
And
awesome.
then I went to Gen Con 2018.
What does being co-director of this project entail? Like what's kind of your day-to-day? What's your big month-long thing? Like what does that look like for you and what do you do?
Generally, it's just keeping up with writers, making sure that they're doing okay. Because our division of labor for any Sina Una book has been Sierra Sword is managing payment and art direction and art, and I'm handling writers and narrative flow.
What does it look like to work with writers and put together, like you said, that narrative flow for classes, for the world, for whatever? Do you have a meeting where you bring everyone together and brainstorm? Do you assign it, kind of like, oh, just go run off and fill out this space? Or what does that look like for you guys? And kind of why did you choose that approach?
Well, in the first book, we had Mackenzie de Armas with us, who now works at WotC.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that broke down, it's breaking down for both ones, has been just giving assignments out and saying, "Hey, you have freedom here. What do you want to do with it?" Um, and we're doing that in part because a lot of RPG people get their voices diminished when they're working in Western projects, and we try our best to avoid doing that for this project. RPGC standing for RPG Southeast Asia. So for people who are on the team who are from Southeast Asia, this helps them out just not to have their voices smothered.
Mm-hmm.
But for this one, for the newer book, for Tales from Sina Una, we say, hey, we want you to do an adventure. It needs to be around this long. If you go under that, that's fine. If you go a little over that, that's fine. We're just shooting for this many pages, which is going to be roughly around this many words. Some people are overshooting that. Some people are undershooting that. It's kind of balancing out and just letting them run with it. We check in on what they're doing because everybody has different levels of where they're at when it comes to adventure writing. Because you can world build, and world build's mechanically free. When it
Mm-hmm.
comes to
Yeah.
actual adventure writing, I'm working closely with each writer on what they need to do because some of them are very, very, very skilled world builders, but they need help when it comes to like bumping up the mechanics or helping out the flow or making sense of an adventure,
Yes.
pointing out problem areas or problem plot holes that might pop up. So I've been running this stuff since I was, 10. You know, I played through a lot of pre-mades. I know where holes are.
Yes.
I know what to look for. Or pointing out where they need to be aware of a certain danger or a certain problem that might run up for potential DMs. Just kind of adjusting what people need on a person-to-person basis based on what they're writing.
For you as kind of, again, writer wrangler, as that kind of like eye in the sky who is empowering people, sounds like, and is making sure that everything is tightened the way it needs to be tightened. Do you enjoy that process? What parts of it do you enjoy?
I enjoy it immensely. I do this kind of thing for a lot of projects that I'm working on because most projects I'm on, I'm the person leading it.
Mm-hmm.
With this, there's a lot of pressure off me because Sword's there. But for this in particular, it's just very fulfilling because a lot of the people who are writing for it are recurring members to the team. They made it to the first book, or they're new members to the team who already like the setting, who already know what's up, who already enjoy it. And so being able to go back and forth with a bunch of people who are going, "Hey, does this work?" I'm like, "Hell yeah!" And they're going, "Hell yeah!" And I'm like, "Hell yeah!" And they're like, "Hell yeah!"
I would love to like go through your like Slack channel or text message thread, and it's just 15 people all just listing off hell yeah. And I think that feels very affirming.
Oh yeah, no, it's very different from like, I don't want to call it more professional, but projects that I've been a part of that have been from higher or larger companies because they have to be more formal. They have to have a
Sure.
very, very formal process for everything. Whereas for this one, uh, I I've said nothing in one chat for a few weeks because they've been talking art back and forth, and they released one piece of art for one of the characters in one of their adventures. And my one line in like 3 weeks has been, "Of course, you get the most fucking metal piece of art here." Jesus. And that's it. That's all I've said in a couple weeks, It's just that. It's fun. It's nice. It's smooth. I'm talking with everybody individually, which helps me keep active. I get to bounce between different people and what they're doing and different ideas. I'm not stuck in a rut or grinding into a pit, which is what it feels like when I have to focus on one project for too long without doing something else.
So I know that in the creation of especially your first book, that you've spoken a little bit about having to connect with the source material, right? With mythologies, with historical bits and baubles, and just all the ephemera that goes into a real world setting, I guess is a fine way to put it, and then translate that into a fantasy setting. So can you kind of like speak a little bit about your experience as not just a project manager and someone who's like, oh yeah, I'm doing research, but also as someone who, you've mentioned a little bit, almost is kind of reconnecting or connecting maybe for the first time with that part of you and of your history and your family's history.
It's difficult. Um, if you have a heritage that ties into a country that's been damaged by colonialism, it's incredibly difficult to actually connect to your heritage because something will persist. Some things like food or some pieces of art or certain stories will survive. But for the most part, everything else is going to be either lost or inaccessible. You know, we've got a monster in our book called the tiburones, but that's just Spanish for shark. We don't actually have the formal word for it because that word is lost to us. Some people have made some newer words for it, but like at the end of the day, like we don't have that original word anymore.
Yeah.
Working on that first book was very, very painful when it came to research, both just emotionally and physically getting actual information in front of us. I've got a book in my library, in my digital library, and there's been like less than 3, maybe 4 physical print runs of that book.
Wow.
Since the 90s. And the book is like maybe 100 pages long, 200, I think. I can't remember off the top of my head. And there cannot be like 1,000 copies in the world. I got a hold of a PDF of that book, and it took me a month to find it. A little month of just searching every day for a copy, physical or PDF. And I couldn't find it. And then eventually a very nice organization just sent me a copy and said, "Hey, don't tell people you got it from us." I'm like, "Yeah, dope, no sweat."
Hell yeah.
And yeah, and super helpful. I got what I needed. And then we made a subclass and some death stuff after it because it deals with spiritual beliefs and about the soul. It's called the
Cool.
Soul Book. It's incredibly hard to find a copy of. But there's also a book called the Body Book, which is even rarer. How difficult getting a copy of the Soul Book was, it's that difficulty to the Soul Book in terms of rarity, And I found it by complete chance in the depths of the internet. We're talking like page 10 of a Google search.
Yeah, right.
And I told my researchers, and they're like, wait, can you send me a copy? I don't have a copy. And I'm talking about people who've been researching this stuff for like the past 5 years or 15 years, depending on who you ask on our team. This knowledge is not readily available. It is not immediately nearby.
Mm-hmm.
We did all that research. We went through all the pain of going through all this knowledge. And not just like, learning about it, but actually feeling actually Filipino, because it seems like a made up thing at this point. But when I broached the subject of being Filipino with Lucia originally, I was very, very bashful about it. I was very shy about it because I was like, well, it's cool that I'm meeting someone who's Filipino and not part of this extreme religious group that I was born into. But also, I hope they don't find it weird that I'm just like, oh my God, are you Filipino? I'm Filipino,
Yeah.
And nowadays I'm akin to Bart banging on the pots and pans outside of Homer's doorway going like, I am great. I am here.
Mm-hmm.
Is
anyone else here? Come on over. Let's hang out.
Yeah, it's that slow transition from just being some person around to being someone who is. What is that quote from that one article? It's in order to get the rewards of being loved, we have to go through the mortifying ordeal of being known.
Mm-hmm.
It was that process of becoming known, of being a more public figure about being Filipino. Because I know a bunch of people who are Filipino people who just didn't talk about it.
Yeah, sure.
Or people who said they're Filipino, or they'd say that they're half Filipino, or they're Filipino American. I detest the label Phil-Am, but people really put themselves however they want. I'm not the cops.
Not for you.
Yeah, it's not for me. But just being a Filipino person, all at once felt like, wow, this is a very small field. And also, Jesus, there's more than Joe Coy. Thank God.
Uh-huh. So this is something that I really enjoy about world building and adventure building, right? It's just taking little seeds from things and kind of pulling on it and extrapolating it and slamming it together with other things. What was your guys' process, not just generally doing that and taking it from mythology, but doing it in a way that captures the spirit or essence of the time period and culture that you guys were exploring, and doing it in a way that was also, I would imagine, a very personal experience, like you've said, in a very kind of like you were also learning as you were going. Can you just talk a little bit about what that experience was like, and also how you kind of like compartmentalized it, I guess, and kind of made it into a structure that turned into a book?
Sure. We have a lot in the book. Originally the book was just going to be like 2 classes, a single island, and like maybe 10 monsters. And it's not
much
that.
bigger. It's
Yeah.
much bigger than that.
Yeah. And that came about from a conversation I had with just going, hey, we need to have more stuff in here if we want people to actually engage with this. We have the 2 classes, but that's a whole lot for players to engage with. We need to have more in here. And that's how it exploded into what it is now, But putting stuff in there was this process of seeing what is normally included in like a full campaign setting, what does it need to play in there realistically. And like, I remember growing up, I would have these different campaign settings for D&D, and they'd be fully complete as long as you knew some bare bone rules from the core book, and went with that mentality. But I had a lot of pages to fill.
Yeah.
So filling this book out involved a lot of research for any one individual thing, and figuring out this middle field that I kind of became aware of, that I call fantastical representation, which is in between, lying about something and make it very tourist sensationally. It's where you get the brochure or the advertisement from the early 2000s of come to the mysterious exotic Philippines. Check out the dangerous jungles. Watch out for the strange, mysterious creatures that lurk in the forest, and keep an eye out for their beautiful women. It's like, Jesus, are you fucking kidding me? This is what I'm sold about my own hair. Fuck this. Right. And then being very dry and being very textbook about things. Being exciting and being showing off a very fun version of something without actually outright lying about it. Because it'd be super easy to lie about this stuff. It'd be super easy to give this all just the same marketing shenanigans and talking very big about it and talking with these verbs of ancient and wise and mysterious and far away. But that's A, Orientalism, and B, just straight up horseshit. We never had to do that.
It means so little,
it means so little. And we never do that. We never did that in any marketing. We never did in any part of it. We were just very happy about all this stuff. We wanted to share that happiness with people. This is stuff that we love. This is us boiled down to our roots. And we wanted to love who we were for the first time.
I did a little bit of history in college. I was a major in history, and I always enjoyed finding kind of the threads and the narrative and kind of the cultural mindset of different cultures. Obviously, it's very vastly simplified, but was there anything, especially as you were kind of zoning in on this particular area, this particular time period, and translating that into kind of a narrative structure of a book that struck you about it, where it's like, oh, this was a time and place that valued this or viewed the world like this? Or did you learn anything along those lines as a part of the process? Or was it just too much and too diverse and too messy and you just had to kind of wade through it?
The through line for me was through animism, which, to give the cliff notes on that, very complex spiritual belief, is the belief that everything has some spirits. Specifically in the Philippines, if the more worshipped or the more needed a thing is, the more powerful it is. A blade of grass has a spirit but might not have awareness, as opposed to a single tree, which would have a spirit and some awareness, but an entire forest would have all that and power. Compare a stream to a river to an ocean. Which one is more powerful, which one is more needed, which one is more useful. And it came about this idea of, you can't survive alone in the world. You rely on other things, on other people.
Yeah.
And animism can reflect that. We didn't have kings and barons and lords. We had datus, which primarily had power because they shared. They gave to people around them, and they were given power in return. It's this through line of you are only as good as the bonds you have, whether it's a bond to the nature around you or to the people that are around you as well.
How do you translate those sorts of themes into something theoretically crunchy and game designy like a D&D setting book? Is it just kind of setting details? Did you try to weave that into subclasses, into monsters, or what was the process and kind of mindset you had to be in to integrate that into a game instead of just kind of a research paper?
It came out of just a lot of phrasings, and a lot of Western RPGs rely on the same basic tropes repeated over and over and over and over and over.
Certainly.
And it relied on breaking away from tropes and breaking away from Western thought processes and what the Western way of viewing the world.
Yeah.
Afraid of that, this is just a numbers game. And we're already talking about, and I can't say this broadly because the Philippines is composed of a bunch of different groups, a bunch of different ethno-linguistic groups spread out across a whole bunch of islands.
Yes.
But at least speaking for a lot of Bisaya culture, there's a lot of warring. There's a lot of warrior caste cultures to a lot of it. So the violence part wasn't, alien to it, we could translate the violence part of it pretty easily. It just required us fleshing out the world in a way that wasn't akin to just, oh, this is just Europe with a fresh coat of paint.
Yes. Right.
Which goes down to, thinking about the world around you. approaching the environment, approaching the people around you, and not just going, oh, I own this, I own that, this belongs to me. It was, this is there, and that is there, and you have a relationship to that lake or that mountain or that volcano. It wasn't a matter of ownership, it was a matter of symbiosis.
Yeah, I love that. So you guys are putting this growing in scope project together, doing a tireless amounts of not just research, but research so you are able to do research. And I certainly, and I think a lot of people on the internet found out about this project when it got featured on Critical Role. I think like 3 times, I think now that the Sina Una setting has been mentioned or talked about or whatever on Critical Role. Did things change for you, or is it just like, that was cool that happened?
Yeah, the first time you got mentioned because of a Black Friday sale, and it was like, oh, cool, we got mentioned, neat. The second time was the second time was part of the opening of Campaign 3 as part of a musical number. And then the time when it was officially talked about with the hardcover release is in my Twitter profile banner.
Yes.
And it might remain that way forever.
It's a really good picture.
Of Sam Riegel in a cat suit holding my book. I only found out about any of it because I'd be working or doing something else, and all of a sudden I would get like 20 Discord notes going like, "Hey, have you seen this?" And I'm like, I don't keep up with Critical Role. What's going on?
Yeah,
I don't know what's going on. Just me freaking out because people are like, "Yo, congratulations!" And I'm like, "Hey, thank you
for what? Huh?
What's going on though?"
Yep,
everybody's saying that. What's going on? Oh, Sina Una was on Critical Role. What do you mean? I didn't pay anything. I know Lucia didn't pay anything. So just one huge shock after another every single time that it's happened. It's been a delightful surprise each time, but I'm made viciously aware of it each time it happens.
Yeah, and well after the fact, or as it's happening, or what have you. Yeah,
like 10 seconds after the fact, which means I can't easily go to the stream and just watch what happened. I have to like rewind time and on like the currently being made VOD to figure out what is going on right now.
Obviously, you guys funded your original Kickstarter. I think you got like 140 or 50% of your goal, something along those lines. Did Critical Role, did that play a part of that? Or did you guys just through kind of your own word of mouth and awareness and that kind of stuff reach that goal and then now have kind of like continued to piggyback that onto your latest campaign?
Yeah, we were not like to present day, we're not involved with Critical Role.
Right.
But like the first book, we were never mentioned by anybody. It was literally just Lucia and I spreading, talking about Sina Una through word of mouth. She has always had a very large online following, and I would be going to conventions and saying hi to people and being a little asshole and begging people into asking me about what I'm working on. Because like, ask anybody who's boothed a convention, they've been held hostage by a nerd.
Yeah, that is my understanding.
Who will just talk at them. But what I do, which is sneaky and underhanded, was I'd be looking at their stuff and I'd say, yeah, I want to see what other people are working on in the industry, and I'm kind of new and I just want to see what's out there. And they would go, oh, you're making something?
Very interesting.
Oh yeah, I'm just working on a thing. What are you working on?
Reel them in.
Yeah, which is a very cheap thing to do. I'm fully aware of what I'm doing. I'm fully aware of like, it's not the worst thing, but it's not the most over the table thing to do.
Well, it's kind of one of those things where like everyone gets, there's the game to be played to a certain extent, and you're being authentic about it and you're showing interest, and it's at least a grayer area for certain.
Yeah. That was literally just our marketing strategy. Me going to conventions, talking about it, making threads on Twitter, and just sharing around whenever we were hitting benchmarks of the campaign. And that got us 42K on Indiegogo.
Yeah.
Where non-tech dreams go to die for the most part.
Yeah.
We fund in the very final week, like the Monday of.
Wow.
Yeah. It was not grand.
I'd imagine that was pretty stressful.
It was the Friday morning of PAX U 2019, and me watching the countdown go to 0 seconds. It's painful.
Yeah. But you did it,
Yeah, yeah. And then 3 years later, we run a new campaign on Kickstarter rather than Indiegogo because, again, non-tech dreams got to die for the most part. There are exceptions, but they're exceptions.
Mm-hmm.
And we got 140K because when we started off the first book, we didn't have a publisher. We got a publisher via accident. And they're lovely. Love working with them. They've always been very, very
Hit Point
wonderful with
Press,
us.
right? Is who your
Yep,
publisher? Yep.
Yeah,
Who
everyone's
did
been very lovely to work
Who
with.
did the Humblewood, and I mean about tons of other stuff.
Humblewood, heck no, they're being publisher for a bunch of other people as well.
Yeah, tons of projects.
Yeah, yeah. But like we got to deal with them by accident. I'm always gonna laugh about that. But we didn't have any connections at all. We did the first one at PAX. We made the connection with Hit Point Press, and then we started working on the book. And then 3 years later, we now have this new book, this new project, which got a healthy amount of funding, nearly 100K more than the first book, which is such an utter fucking relief. I have no idea how much I'm allowed to swear in this. I'm working on swearing less, but it's such an utter fucking
I meant
relief.
to put that as part of our the opening spiel. Yeah, cusses are very allowed.
Piss, shit, ass, fuck. Okay.
We caught up for the other 40 minutes where we weren't cussing, and we'll just really layer it in now.
Yeah. But in this new one, getting 140 has been such an utter relief. It's weird because we did the vast majority of research. We went through all that pain, and now we're getting the rewards of being loved.
Yeah,
and it's just weird because during the campaign, I be talking to Lucia, going like, "Remember the first book? Remember the first book? Remember the first book? Remember what that was like?" And like, this is so different from that. But I'm having the ghosts of projects past now haunt me.
Yeah, right.
To quote, what was that one production? What's that one play production company? To quote Starkid Productions, it's not PTSD. I'm just vividly remembering things.
Yeah, right. Perfect. That's exactly. So was this the adventure book? Like, did you guys always have kind of a roadmap of like, hey, we're doing the campaign setting and it's robust and it's going to be a whole thing, and we hope next thing is an adventure book? Or when did that kind of enter into the conversation?
So if you go to the original Indiegogo, we talk about how there's an adventure in the book. And if you look at the book now, there's no adventure in that book.
I remember that.
Yeah, that's not being a thing because I said I don't want to put a 10-page adventure in the back of like a 300+ page book because that is unwieldy at best. So this book has existed in different ideations and iterations. At one point, we were being recommended to make a Patreon, which we did not want to do. At one point, we were going to be working on this in private, but hadn't being funded for, but things fell through because of the economy and one particular anti-vaxxer, which it's a sore point for me.
That is a specific and frustrating sounding experience.
Yes. And I cannot talk about it publicly in detail, but there's one person who kind of fucked us on this in particular. But eventually came to pass that we were going to get a small, we're going to start small with working on getting some art assets, planning out what the book would be, running a crowdfunding campaign, and making the book from that. And it took us 3 years, but we finally have it. And only took me 3 years to finally get the deluxe cover of Sina Una that I always wanted. So I'm happy.
And I will say I haven't talked about it specifically. The art in all of these books are just beautiful. Like, Google it. Like, check it out. It's colorful. It's vibrant. There's energy. There's action. So if you are someone who is a visual person, to get sucked into a setting or to a book, like this is a good one for it.
Yeah, Lucia does a fantastic job of sourcing artists of different styles, so we're not just appearing like we're trying to copy the Wizard's look.
Right. Yeah, and it is definitely distinct. It is its own thing for sure. Kickstarter is well covered, but still very not well understood, especially by people who haven't gone through the experience before. So what lessons did you guys kind of learn that might be useful for others?
Marketing is key. Marketing is pivotal. You can make the best book in the world and it won't matter if no one sees it. Talking to influencers, working with BackerKit, working with emailing lists, talking to people about what you can do for deals and like getting the name of your book out there. Sponsoring people with active participatory audiences. There are some people online who have like a huge audience, but they only get like some interaction with their stuff. Whereas you might talk to someone with a smaller following than that, but they have a higher percentage of people who are actually active. Marketing any way you can to get your book in front of people, just because that is the way to get people to actually buy your stuff. We got 42K on Indiegogo, which is not the best platform for discoverability for a project like ours. And we made 42K purely through word of mouth. If we had done it through Kickstarter, we would have gotten a lot more and made the entire process a lot easier for us. And that's something we learned firsthand. And please never learn that lesson the hard way. I'm giving you the easy way. Just don't do it.
Yeah, take their advice for it. Just don't do it.
Yeah,
easy peasy.
Kickstarter's been a lot better for us, but we also just have had a lot of support when it comes to marketing. And I cannot undersell the fact that marketing is just so pivotal when it comes to getting your book out in front of people. Because I mean, like, it's $100,000 difference.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
it's a lot of money.
Yes, and especially as you're working with all these different writers and with art assets and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure it makes a big difference for them, for the product, for your work, for everything. So makes a lot of sense. And how many adventures are going to be packaged in this? I don't know if I saw on the Kickstarter, or don't remember from the Kickstarter, rather.
13.
Nice. We're in the process of kind of putting that together and working with folks and whatnot.
As of right now, everybody knows what they're doing. We've already gone through like a pitch process and refinement process, so we all know what we need to do. It's just a matter of going through it.
Yeah,
doing it. We're starting in full come, later on this week.
Awesome. Cool. That's
very I'm saying this on the 8th as we record this, so yeah, take that as you will, future people.
Is there anything in particular that you're really excited about for this book? There's refining, there's, I'm sure, throwing things in the garbage that didn't work. But is there anything right now that you're like, when people get a load of this, or like, this is the encapsulation of what the vibes of this book are going to be, that you think people would love?
Honestly, it's public, but shark people.
I mean,
straight up.
Yeah. Like, hell yeah.
Yeah, it's the shark people. It's the crab people. We've announced most of the things that will be in here. I don't know. It's hard for me to really specify one thing without like giving too much away.
Totally.
The stuff in the book currently. But like, I'm excited. I'm excited just to have a lot of freedom with this.
Yeah.
I'm excited to just have fun, honestly.
Yeah.
Obviously, the first book wasn't fun, but it was just a lot of like the crashing realization of like my culture definitely made the tone a lot more serious.
What, if you're talking to a DM, right, who is looking to inject anything into their campaign, is looking to get resources, is looking to get inspiration, whatever, why should a DM look at Sina Una, especially if they're one who's steeped in a lot of those kind of Western fantasy, Lord of the Rings, air quote, medieval kind of game styles? What does this product and this world and this tone offer to a game, do you think?
It offers a different view of the world at large. It offers a world that is disconnected from the lords and daddies of generic Dark Age Europe. It offers a look into a world that's just a lot more interconnected and less just arbitrarily distanced.
Yeah.
It also gives a world that feels just a little bit more alive. Literally, through the lens of animism, or just the fact that you aren't just some stranger in a strange land. You are someone who lives among these people. You aren't some visitor. This is where you live. These are your neighbors. And that is a whole different experience than just wandering about, going to a new place with new people, and looking for new work.
So another thing that struck me in the answer before this too was also, talking about the freedom and the joy and the kind of creation that's already happened and is still ahead of you. So I wanted to ask also, just generally, you've been doing D&D and tabletop role-playing games for a long time now, your whole life, basically, in one form or another, playing and creating and writing or running. D&D, like what excites you about that? Like what has kept you at the table, virtual or otherwise, or kept you at books, kept you researching things for a month to get a cool supplement and cool setting book just right? What's the juice for you?
I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna sound like a bully.
Ooh, I'm very
It's
excited now.
giving a new rise or a new shock to my players.
Oh, yeah.
Genuinely, I love putting people and players through new things that they can't just like blanket response to.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yep.
because like I can go through a video game and I can treat every encounter of a certain thing the same way over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it doesn't matter. There's no difference to me. And for my players, unless there's some variety to it, it's going to feel the same no matter what. But like, I love being able to expand what I'm able to work with, expand what I'm able to do, just on the pure basis of it's really fun to shock my players sometimes.
Yeah. And break them out of patterns, for sure.
Break them out of patterns, but also just to give them something new to go through,
Mm-hmm.
something new to experience. It's a little fulfilling, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that is going through Sina Una or going through my own homebrew games, I just really like throwing new things that my players don't have a blanket response to.
Yes. Just stop them in their tracks.
Yeah.
Make them think, make them figure stuff out. Yeah. What kind of stories do you like? Not just to write or run, to consume and to create. Have you noticed, especially as you've been kind of steeped in content creation professionally for the last couple of years, any themes, any, kind of recurring anything that you've kind of like learned about yourself through playing and creating for D&D?
Gosh. That is such a fucking complex question.
Yeah.
No, I like connecting with people.
Mm-hmm.
I like talking with people. I grew up being a very anxious kid, to the point where I would have trouble ordering fast food. Just being totally unable to talk to someone to the point of just physically shaking from anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
But I loved people. I loved how interesting people can be.
Mm-hmm.
And, working on D&D stuff, playing D&D, not to say that D&D has given me social skills, because there's a lot of D&D players out there who lack a lot of social skills, you know, but it's just playing games has allowed me to see just how much I like talking to people, and connecting with people, despite the fact that I spend most of my days alone and quiet working on stuff.
It can be both.
Oh yeah. I mean, everybody's full of dualities, right?
Yes, absolutely. And do you find that when you're making stuff, whether it is for your home game, whether it's for the book, whether it's for whatever, are you someone who likes to create based on people, I guess, and like characters and character driven stuff? Are you a situational kind of person, like you said, of like, I'm going to create something that my players are not ready for? Or, kind of what do you err on, or is it a mix?
I think any great game has to be a mix.
Mm-hmm.
I think any great game has to have input in some way, passive or active, from everybody at the table.
Mm-hmm.
And it might not be a thing like everybody saying, I want this thing and this dramatic thing to happen. But it's like, if you make a character who has a father, I mean, somewhere around the world there's a father figure. I'm trying to think of how to put this. I ran a game for a while, and I had a player whose story arc was going to be, I am the bastard son of someone who was of noble lineage, and I was left in some corner pocket of the world, and one day I'm going to find him, kill him, and take my fortune.
Hell yeah.
And then he met his father in like session 20. At level 5.
Yeah.
Level 5, 6. And my players, I told them, I like running games that run from like level 1 to like 18, 19. And so in that his mind, his response was,
absolutely.
Wait, what do you mean now is when I meet him?
Yeah. Right.
Shit.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yep.
That creates a kind of external panic, which I deeply enjoy. There was a character whose relationship to their parent was, this was adoptive parent, And as she spoke now as an adult to her adoptive sister and to other people, it became a little suspicious as to why her father adopted her in the first place. And I could just easily slot that into whatever all the stuff that I was doing already.
Yep.
Finding places where I can easily smooth in who or what my players are, I love doing. Not to like bend what they want or bend what they've put into the world into what I'm doing, but making their stuff part of the overall some of the essential stones to make this arch. I love doing that.
Now, and I'm sure it's complicated by you being co-director of a book, are you a DM or are you a player, or is it all just like amorphous, or kind of like in your heart of hearts, how do you identify, including as a writer or whatever in terms of tabletop?
No, I've always been a DM. If I had to include my hours DMing versus my hours playing, it would be a ratio higher than 20-1.
Yeah, a real forever DM kind of situation.
Because like I genuinely love it. I genuinely enjoy it. My favorite times playing these games has come about from me being a DM. Whether it's been someone setting fire to my players' boats, having to deal with my ogres being trapped in a room full of summoned wasps, or cutting off the gunslinger's arm. Like I've enjoyed this stuff a lot, and primarily it's come from me being a DM.
You know, you speak very fondly of DMing and of also prodding your players in ways that only the cruelest and best DMs like to prod. Have there been any times where you have felt like particularly emotional at the tabletop, unlocked something or found something or gotten to explore something that was really, really meaningful for you? And obviously that includes all the work on the books too.
So I'll say this, that I have a lot of years of acting under my belt. I used to do a lot of Shakespeare, and I've done years of improv. Cool. So if I get a little bit of a wind up, I can make myself cry. On a stream, for a Sina Una stream, working through a part of the story with one of my players, I was playing that character's mother and talking about how she doesn't recognize this person anymore. You may look like my daughter, but I did not give you that name. And constantly asking her, what is your name? And the player would give the character's name, and they go, no, that's not what I named you. And it turned out to be a whole like magic memory thing. But like being shouted at by your nearly crying, very angry fantasy mother, got my player to cry, and we were, to clear here, we were good afterwards. I was checking in during and after what was going on,
to
make sure that we were
always good,
on the level. I'm not that level of monster.
Right. You're not actively trying to make them feel bad non-consensually.
Yeah. No, everything was above board, but stuff like that. It's me being the character and the character being emotional. Rarely has it been me getting actually emotional. I can't remember the last time that I got actually emotional being me playing the game. Other than just pure rapturous joy if I pull something off right.
Yeah, right. Oh, well, I mean, duh, obviously.
I mean, if we're going into that territory, I joked about this at a panel at PAX U 2021, but I was doing a panel called Bad Advice from Great DMs. We're at the table, we got prompted, hey, what's the worst thing you've done at a table? And one person was like, well, I stopped a person from flying, or I stole someone's weapon. And very monotone, very flatly, I said, I made my players afraid of the color red for 3 months. And the person to my left immediately responded with, wait, hold up, everybody. Players? And my friend to that person's left was, yeah, players.
Had firsthand knowledge, shall we say?
Yeah. No, I made my players genuinely afraid of the color red for 3 months.
Well, now great. I need to know, how did you do it so that I can take notes? And
so it was a very slow burn horror campaign. Slow burn, as the more you learn, the more things are connecting in very, very awful ways. For session 1, I kept on describing this like red fungal growth that was moving around. or that just felt raw, you know?
Eep.
Like they would fight a horse, and the horse would, like, if you cut it, dealt too much damage, it would like spray out this like fungal infected blood. Content warning for everybody, by the way. Sorry about this. Blood and mild gore. And it'd be kind of horrific. They would shoot down a wolf, and it would explode in this fungal viscera. Like, this is awful. And they would go into a cave, and they'd see all this fungal stuff all across the wall. And they saw the person they were trying to rescue. They walk up to them, and they try to pull them off the wall. Oh, no. And they see that some of the stuff is trying to go inside it. It's going through wounds. And they realize, wait a second, this isn't fungus. This is meat acting like fungus. And this was session 1.
No big deal. Just session 1.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah. Session 1. And then, second session, some of the things I started to click off just what they were dealing with directly, naming it by name, because, like, they cleared out a cottage in the woods, and they went downstairs. The artificer went downstairs to check things out, and she saw this, like, red painted silhouette of a man. And she was looking at it, all the different things around it, and she looked up at the face of it, and on the face there were just eyes looking at her, like human eyes looking at her. And she screamed and ran upstairs, and the ranger took out her spear and went downstairs to look at it, and the arm of the silhouette had moved to smear the face where the eyes were. And then things got progressively worse.
And it went worse from there.
Yeah, because that was session 2. That is like a 30-second sequence from session 2.
Yeah. Well, I would be the cautious of the color red from just those 2 minutes of story. Yeah, that tracks.
And everything ramped up from there over the course of, like, I want to say 7, 8, 9 sessions. It just did not ever get better
from there. It got worse from there.
Rest assured, the term corpse mountain became literal.
Oof, oofa doofa.
Yeah, that was
in a good way. Hell yes, obviously that's sick as hell, but also oof.
Yeah, they were going through the sewers, and they came and
even worse.
Yeah, and they had heard rumors about, like, because they're just trying to do a quick bounty, They had rumors,
easy job, I'm sure.
They had rumors of, like, this religious group that went down to the sewers and just didn't come back up. Chill stuff.
Cool, regular, normal. I'm sure nothing occult or eldritch or horrific happened. No problem.
And they went to the sewers, and, like, the ranger was talking to the rats. The rats were leading them around, and then they were walking towards this openish area, and they saw a pile of bodies poking up out from the floor level.
Not great.
And as they got closer, they realized that the floor wasn't actually a floor. The floor was just this, like, walkway around the room.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a pit. There's a hole in the middle of the floor that this pile was poking out of. And they get to the walkway and look down, and there's just this literal mountain of corpses going down to like a Scrooge McDuck situation.
Yeah,
where it, like a hail of gold pans out into an unknowable depth amount of coins, but just replace the coins with corpses.
Yeah,
and they're all just devoid of any kind of color, like fresh Google Docs white. And they're like, this is messed up. This is not cool. What are we supposed to do here? We found them, but what do we do now? And then they saw this hand burst out from the mountain.
It's not good.
And the skin's all red. The fingernails are red. The hair is all red. The sleeve is all red. It put itself out, and another hand comes out, and it's all red too, along with the clothing. It just pull itself out, and the suit that it's wearing is all red, and the vest is all red. The shirt underneath is all red. The trousers, the shoes, the hat, the hair, the ears, the mouth, the tongue, the teeth, the eyes, all red. The man in red. And he looks over at the players and goes, "It's so wonderful to see you all. I hope you'll stay. It's just been so long since we've had any." And then the warlock says, "I don't like this." And blasts him, Because, like, why would you listen to this person?
Yep.
Why would you ever listen to this person?
Not unreasonable.
And the moment that the Eldritch Blast hits, it's no longer the man in red. It's just now a fresh corpse, a clean kill, that tumbles down the mountain, down to the depths below. And then there's some silence. And then a hand bursts out from the mountain.
Yeah.
And their hand and the body and the head and the legs goes.
And it was a normal hand, right? I assume.
No.
Normal...
You know what's going on. Man in red climbed and goes, "Great shots. You're growing day by day. If only your mother could see you now." And the warlock shoots him again.
Fair.
And now it's this young person who's screaming because she just got hit, and they're hanging on the side of the corpse mountain, screaming out because they have no idea what's going on. And then a hand comes out of the mountain and climbs out, and the players are all freaking out. And I think this was session 6.
Things escalated once again.
Yeah,
I think
and things got worse.
And things got worse. May we all be able to describe our DM'd games as, and then things got worse from there.
Yeah. But stuff like that is why my players became afraid of the color red for a few months.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I think fits into some of the other things you've said about, well, yeah, this is a weird situation. What do you do? There's not a lot of templates of Corpse Mountain, in terms of how to react.
Sadly, one of my players admitted that he's a big guy. We'd be playing at his apartment right before the pandemic hit, and then for a while over Zoom on that particular campaign. And whenever a session ended, he would shut his windows and shut both his doors, go to his one bedroom, lock it behind him, and just be very paranoid about every sound that he heard.
What a blessing. May we all be able to horrify our players in such dramatic real world fashions, consensually, but also that.
Yeah. Most of my players these days know to expect to become either deeply horrified or deeply emotional.
Yeah, or both. Being afraid is an emotion, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
The last quick question, or maybe not so quick, the last question I had for you before we got into the daunting lightning round that is ahead is that you have mentioned marketing as being, a key part of your guys' success. You have a quote unquote platform on Twitter. And so do many other people who are working on this book. And especially when you are working on a big public book like that, and a public book that is so personal, so experiential, and also just outside the norm of what TTRPG content is. Any amount of being online is difficult. I'd imagine it was especially difficult doing all of that. But I'm curious, just generally speaking, what has your experience been like being a quote unquote public figure, kind of in as much as any of us TTRPG people are public figures who aren't on Critical Role?
Been weird. It's been weird. Again, I was a kid, and then I spent 16 years being a loser. So it's been very, very weird and very, very sudden, and I'm adjusting to it. Like recently, I passed 8K followers, which is not a whole lot in the grand scheme of like being an influencer, but it's still a lot of people who are looking at what I do.
A lot of human beings.
Yeah. So it's just weird having people look at me and track what I'm doing and want to see what I'm doing next. Mm-hmm. It's just a very, very weird adjustment for me. And I think that comes about only from me just having a lot of time that I spend being introspective and observing my own life, just trying to make sure that I'm like on the up and up with myself. Mm-hmm. But genuinely, I don't know if it's ever something I'm going to be able to get used to, and I kind of don't want to get used to it.
Yeah. Yep. Very reasonable.
Yeah. I think the moment you go, well, of course I get this kind of following, you're just a shithead.
Yes. It's hard to come back from that, I think. And it just goes, and it gets worse from there.
Yeah. I think on some level, if you go like, yeah, well, I was on this huge project, of course, the people who follow me, that's different. It's just like, of course, I will get people who'll be interested in what I'm doing. I'm special. Fuck you.
Yeah.
You know,
Has anyone reached out to you or you guys about the level of representation that you guys have brought and the level of visibility, I guess, that you mentioned you didn't have kind of going into this project? Have you been able to experience that, hopefully, and hear from people?
yeah, nearly every week for the past
Wow.
couple of years. More so ever since the PDF got released, especially once the hardcover got released.
Mm-hmm.
I will quite often get an email here and there, or we will get a review, or we will get a letter of some kind. A couple times physical, and that was odd. Um, Odd in that it came with like a book, not odd as in some strangers found my address. Kind
Yeah.
of weird. We get people who talk about how glad they are to see
Mm-hmm.
themselves in fantasy. We get letters from people talking about how this isn't really just a D&D book or a game book. This is a history book.
Yeah.
You know, our book is used in some college courses in Manila and some high school courses
Fascinating.
in the Philippines and in America. There's a couple of D&D clubs around America who use our books
Mm-hmm.
as both reference material and also just like things that they want to keep using.
Mm-hmm.
There is an organization in California devoted to youth outreach and teaching. Our book is in their library for a reason. I think that's been the one thing that I've had to adjust to the most. It's taking the longest time to get my head around.
Yeah.
Because like for me, I'm used to Sina Una. I'm
Yeah.
used to being in that world and living in it.
Yep.
And my journey throughout the book has been very internal, me going, this is really cool. I wish I had this growing up, or I wish I had known this growing up, or or I want, or me, 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 me. And I never really thought about how other people really see it,
Sure.
other than, cool, this is going to be representative and it's going to be cool, and I'm not
Mm-hmm.
going to fuck it up because I don't want to be a mistake in history. Because,
Good motivator.
yeah, because like I'm used to people fucking up Filipino representation. I'm very much used to it, That was from the pressure that we were under of just want to make sure that we were not just like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really think about what that all would entail. I tell people you can imagine a million things, but you can't actually picture a million things.
Yeah.
You can imagine the concept, but not the actual execution of it.
Mm-hmm.
I could imagine what it'd be like for someone to look at this book and see themselves and feel relief. I had no idea that it would take such visceral forms or would manifest in very distinct and personal ways for people.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy who's putting together a live play of Sina Una stuff in a studio with a bunch of Filipino dishes this week.
Wow, cool.
Yeah. And like, this is a guy in California who writes for LARPs and whatnot. And he's running this, Filipino.
I think I did see that. I don't know if it was on your Twitter or Sears Twitter or both or whatever.
One of ours at least.
Yeah.
But like, this is a guy who like, I always thought was really cool from a distance because like I had no idea how to approach some of these people sometimes. I'm awkward as shit.
It's still weird.
Again,
yeah, absolutely.
16 years as a loser. I did not brush up on my social skills during that time. I never want to make a parasocial relationship, but like, he friended me on Facebook, and I was like, oh man, this is amazing. I'm a huge fan of this guy. And I saw that message of his. I'm like, hey, this looks really cool. Power to you. And he responded to me, go like, holy shit, you responded to me? And I'm like, what the fuck do you mean?
Yeah.
Why are you having this reaction?
This is not what this is not my understanding of this dynamic whatsoever.
Yeah, at all. I'm like, what do you mean? We've got messages from older generations of Filipino people, both here and abroad, who are just very thankful that like this book exists and can represent what they're all about, And I never thought about this stuff. I really should have.
But like you said, it's difficult though, to really, especially when you're steeped in it for as long as you've been and as long as you have to be, right? That like, especially when it gets as big, but then to actually, like you said, the actual humans who are actually connecting with the actual thing that you have actually done that's different, because that's hard to imagine, or hard to like predict or empathize with before it happens. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And we've gotten stuff like this on a near weekly basis for a while now. And it got renewed again with the announcement of this book, I have a friend who I admire her a great deal, but I started following her before Sina Una got fully released.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and she followed me once Sina got released. I thought, oh, neat, cool. Me working on this project has gotten someone whose work I
Mm-hmm.
admire, whose personality I admire, whose person I admire. To follow me. That's neat. And we just started talking, and now they're a friend. And it's just weird. This stuff happens at the casual level and at the very real level,
Mm-hmm.
where I have to be careful of people forming parasocial relationships towards me now.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's so weird to me.
Yes. Yep. Very strange. Now that you have gotten exposed to kind of the human factor, right, and the human difference that your work is doing, your being the collective work, of course. Has that enriched the experience for you and enriched the work? And do you feel differently about the work now than you did kind of in the lead up, or is the work still the work and the value comes from the work itself?
The value still comes from the work itself.
Mm-hmm.
I I try and maintain a very heavy divide
Yeah.
between how I feel like people responding to my work, good or bad,
Yeah.
and how I feel about my work in general.
Mm-hmm.
Because I make a lot of I've made some weird shit. I've made some very oddball shit, and sometimes it's not the most mechanically deft, and I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I don't really give a shit. But like, if I can make something out to satiate my high standards for like narrative flow and story presentation, then odds are I'm pretty confident that's going to appease a lot of people or make a lot of people happy.
Mm-hmm.
So and that's very egotistical of me to say, and I'm
Mm.
too tired to really pay much attention to that beyond that. But like, I how people respond to my work and how much people love and adore what me and my team doesn't affect how I go about my
Yeah.
work.
Yep.
Because what they liked in the first place was the care put into it.
Yes. Yeah. That totally makes sense. And I think
Yeah.
is the path away from madness, at least as much as any path can be. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think now we have entered into the final stretch of the Reckless Talk conversation, which means it is time for the lightning round. If you are ready, I will tell you there are no rules for the lightning round other than all people get asked pretty much the same questions. I phrase it differently slightly sometimes. There is no wrong answers. It can be a one-word answer, and I will just kind of respectfully pause to be like, that is all they're going to say? Cool, great. It can be a long-winded story. It can be, I don't really have a good answer for that, and we will move on, and that is fine. And again, no wrong answers. All are glorious and welcome here. Are you ready for the lightning round, Paladin?
Let's go for it.
Question 1. Is your glass half full or half empty?
Half full.
What excites you creatively, spiritually, and or emotionally?
The dreams of other people when they're made and presented well. I'm someone who literally can only think in terms of images.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my thoughts are not presented to me in text in any form. So when I talk, I'm just translating what I see as an image. And sometimes I'll come across an image so powerful that I don't have words. I'm just happy in the enjoyment of experiencing it.
Mm-hmm. What does not excite you creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Routine.
What is your favorite sound?
Hearing the laughter of people that I work with.
What sound do you hate?
I cannot stand Discord notifications.
I try to be quiet in these, but yes.
Yeah.
What is your favorite word?
Energeia.
What's that word?
It's a literary term that's inherently hard to define, but a lot of people describe it as a bright, unbearable reality. One person puts it as the feeling that is felt when a god touches down upon Earth, not in some guise, but as they actually are.
Oh, cool. What is your least favorite word?
Urethra. It's a fucking painful word.
I'm just gonna nod. I'm just nodding. Yes.
Yeah.
What tabletop role-playing game or D&D monster, and monster can be, of course, like the amorphous concept, have you not faced or run that you would love to?
There's this old monster from 3.5 D&D, and it is like a CR1 monster. It is like it's tiny size, but it's like it's like a very, very vicious, aberrant mosquito that is naturally invisible.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's a hassle, and they're supposed to come in packs of 3
Naturally.
to 6. Yeah.
Yep. What is your favorite adventure of all time? And it can be a tabletop adventure, it can be a movie adventure, it could be one you went on, one you came up with, one you read, whatever.
The Shackled City. It was a 3.5 D&D adventure path, published over the course of, I think, 13, 14 issues from Dragon Magazine, back before it got canceled. I've run that adventure a couple times, from front to back. I have the compendium hardcover, and I studied that adventure extensively for all throughout middle and high school. And studying that and how it functions, it has informed a lot of how I go about my design these days.
What is your favorite tabletop role-playing game character of all time? And again, can be yours, can be one you read, one you watched, one an NPC that you interacted with.
So the cop-out answer is that I had a friend in high school who played a cleric named Father Oregano, and under the section that said looks, he just wrote down friggin' sweet. The serious response is, my friend, my childhood buddy, played a character named Dackett, and Dackett prepared me for anything that a player could throw at me. There is not a person on this planet who can catch me off guard, because I played with my friend while he played Dackett.
Yep.
Because we would play an adventure later on where he played a rogue, and this was a setting, an area that had a bunch of technology. He got a bunch of laser guns and like staple gun them together and recreated that one scene from a Transformers movie where they're all just shooting lasers into the air randomly. He'd be shooting 10 laser shots at a time, but they'd all be at like minus 10, minus 15 to hit. And so he'd show up out of stealth, shoot a dozen times, go back into stealth. And we're like, where'd that sudden disco come from? That is more tame than Dackett. Dackett, who had his eyes melted out, his spine severed, walked into a private laboratory research center for a necromantic crafting lich, sicked 3 gorillas, a rhino, and a mammoth on it, and then proceeded to use echolocation. A spell that explicitly states that you don't have to scream for it to work, but made the active choice to be like, no, I'm going to scream.
I know I don't have to, but like I do have to.
I don't have to, but Dackett needs to. That kind of decision making, which like in character cool, but also what the fuck? Like no one can catch me off guard. No one can catch me unaware. I might need a second to figure out how to properly respond. But I'm not going to be like, you've ruined things. No. I'm flexible now. I'm flexible enough. You don't know what D&D improv is until you have to explain just how much of the sawmill is no longer there because someone threw a bomb. Understand? Like, I can't be caught off guard anymore, and I challenge people to try. Organically try and throw me off. It won't happen. Nothing can catch me off guard anymore. That's what I got my favorite. Dackett trained me. Okay. Like I insert Bane monologue here of like, I was molded by it. I'm very passionate about this. You can't catch me off guard no more.
Yes, you are water. You will fit into whatever container that you are placed in because of Dackett. I respect the hell out of that.
Oh, it's not even that. It's I am water. I will be whatever state of matter that I need to be in order to survive. Water isn't safe from Dackett either.
Yep, he will dive in and swim around and pee in it a little, maybe. Who knows? Last question. What gives you hope?
Oofa. Honestly, stuff like bioconcrete. Stuff like improved renewable solar panels, vertical farming. It's very easy to look at the news and see how horrible the world is, and like Timothy Chalamet made the joke, made an offhand comment of like how he thinks societal class is in the air, and like he might be right. At the same time, like people developing an algae that devours plastic.
Yeah,
they're putting old retired tugboats and huge ships on the surface floor to create more surface area for things to develop and grow. There's a company that is regrowing coral reefs. Like there's a lot to look forward to in the pursuit of a better tomorrow. And thinking about that kind of stuff makes me feel better about working in like make believe land.
Paladin, congratulations. You have run through the most intense gauntlet that I could offer to you. And as a reward, please tell everyone again who you are, what you do, where to find you, and how to support you.
Hey there, my name is Paladin. Formerly as like not as prayer, but like more formal. Like my name's HTTPaladin because I was trying to make a fun little internet joke and I went horribly out of control on Twitter.
And here
Who
you
would
are.
have
And
thought?
here you are now. Yeah.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. Please don't find me on Facebook. That's really weird. You can support me by just following me on Twitter and seeing what I'm up to. Yeah, I always, this is a sidebar here, but like, you ever like, there are a lot of creators with like Ko-Fis and throw on wish lists and whatnot.
Yep.
And like, definitely you can support someone if you like throw them a couple bucks or invest off their wish list. But also like, no, just see what I'm up to. And like, if you're interested in it, check it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right now I am the lead designer for a book called Dark Symmetry, which just launched on Kickstarter 2 days ago. Because despite ending a Kickstarter a literal week ago, I'm now part of a second Kickstarter 4 days after that. Thank you. I'm so tired. But yeah, check that out on Kickstarter. It's run and owned by the Alchemy RPG platform. I'm having a ball with it. They are giving me full license to be as weird as I want to be.
And isn't that the greatest license that any of us can hope to earn?
Oh, definitely.
Well, I will be sure to put links to all of those things into the episode descriptions. But that is all from me, Paladin. Again, thank you so much. This was wonderful. You have been someone that I have enjoyed watching from afar for some time. So it was a really huge pleasure to get to talk to you here a little bit today.
Well, hey, thank you for having me.
Thank you.